This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today. And if you've floated around Oilers land on YouTube a little bit, you've seen some folks have their point predictions for a couple guys out this offseason in advance of hopefully the January 1 season start dates. So with that, you know what? It's about time I get to it and get something discussed here for you when it comes to getting point totals for our guys in the NHL lineup. Now today I just want to specifically focus on forwards and just kind of doing some math on that and seeing how that stacks up. We've talked extensively the past few weeks about how the Oilers' offense could be unreal, could be beyond what it was last year, and last year was pretty good. Well, you know what? Last year we weren't exactly a top 5 goals for per game team, I don't believe, so we'd like to be there this year, and this is hopefully the lineup that's going to do that for us to hide maybe a little bit of weakness on defense and a little bit of weakness in net, because if you get just average and they just keep you afloat, the offense will get you where you're going, at least to the playoffs. So, with that, the 2021 projected point totals in a 48-game season. Why not have a little bit of fun with it, right? We know we're not playing 82 games. If you're still believing the Oilers are going to play 82 games this season, I think you're a little sadly mistaken at this point. So I'm going to have a little bit of fun, know what we've got before 48 games. Seems safe to me just in case it isn't January 1st, and we at least have a little bit of runway to work with still. So with that, if you're new to the channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. Stick around. We do a lot of Oilers talking every single day here, so definitely, it's the weekend. There's going to be a lot more to come. Connor McDavid, we'll start off with him. Connor McDavid, who had a pretty good season last year, right behind Leon Draisaitl on the team lead for points. And, well, now I've got him projected to be tied with Leon Draisaitl based on the math from last year. This is straight across. I've already discussed extensively for Draisaitl and McDavid the fact that their point totals actually might not grow, or in essence, if they grow, they won't grow to what they should based on the fact that there's scoring depth across the roster, right? So in essence, you look at it, their point totals might grow, but without this roster, if they would have had last year's roster, again this year, their point totals would grow even further. You get what I mean? So there's a reduction in points because the potential for points has lessened with more depth on the roster, even if their point totals do go up. So 26 goals, 48 assists for Connor McDavid this season, 74 points in the column. Leon Draisaitl a split of 29 goals and 45 assists in 74 points again in the full 48 games played. Now this is kind of tricky math, right? Is you just never know how it's going to play out in a shortened season. You don't know if, similar to what happened in the playoffs, if Connor McDavid comes out and scores 2 points a game for the first 30 games, well, suddenly that's 60 points, and then he has 18-point games, even at a point and a half. This projection's way out in the low ball territory, so that's something to keep in mind as I go down the list. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I wanted to predict him to have that point per game season. You just never 100% know if that's going to happen for Nuge because he's getting close. He's almost there. But again, I think it's going to be another situation where he's almost there in point per game total. And I mean, 46 points in 48 games, that's nothing to just sit there and complain about for Nugent Hopkins. 17 goals, 29 assists is what I have him projected to be at for this season based on last year's math. Again, there's some guys I've done some kind of funkier stat analysis with, but with the top 3 guys, basically, if they do what they did last year, they should be able to do exactly this year. And again, right, depth on the roster, that's why I'm a little bit more comfortable doing straight across instead of trying to project what they're going to go out there and grow it at. So James Neal, this one where we did a little bit funkier math. Of course, he only played 55 games last year or something thereabouts, so keep that in mind when you see his point totals are pretty much the same as last year. Well, there's a reason for that, right? No real difference, 48 to 55, and I think last year he had a total like 31 points or something, but the other side too is for more than half those games he played last season, he was injured. He had a foot injury, toe injury, whatever it was, and he wasn't at 100% moving his feet or anything. And that's why I expect the assists were lower last year than I have projected for this year in 48 games. I expect him to be able to be more involved in the play, more able to kind of feed the puck to an open area on a quicker situation because he can move his feet a little bit better. So 17 goals, 15 assists, 32 points for James Neal. Plus, I already told you that he's going to light it up this year. Well, let me see. If James Neal lights it up with 32 points, so 0.66 point per game average in the NHL this year, I think everybody's going to be pretty dang happy with a James Neal 32-point performance in 48 games played. So then, you move down to Zach Kassian, who has 13 goals, 16 assists projected, and 29 points scored. This one, kind of a situation you'll see as we move down the list of how the lines will potentially change throughout the year. I think Kassian could easily benefit from playing with Connor McDavid and Nugent Hopkins, light up a bunch of goals, get up to the 20-point mark, and then find himself on the third line when Jesse Puljujarvi is ready to move up to the first line. So, right, there's a potential there that you could really see some point totals, and then suddenly it just kind of drops off after game number 24-25 of the NHL season. So, 13 goals, 16 assists, 29 points for Zach Kassian. Kyle Turris, 7 goals, 17 assists, and 24 points, which gets him pretty close to his total from last year. Again, a guy who didn't play close to a full season last year. And again, a guy who's going to be on a line that's going to score some points, hopefully score some goals and score some important goals for us 5-on-5, and of course keep the puck out of our net defensively as well. So 7 goals, 17 assists, 24 points for Kyle Turris. Josh Archibald, this is an interesting one because it's one we haven't had an exact conversation about. Josh Archibald, where he fits in the lineup perfectly. He doesn't, but if he gets in, you know what I'd expect him? Go out there, score 17 points, 10 goals, 7 assists, just based on what he did last year again. But at the same rate, a guy who should be able to score sooner than, say, March this year. And if he does that, the point totals should be able to get there a lot sooner and a lot faster and a lot easier for a guy like Josh Archibald. Now, the guy that we were talking about with Zach Kassian, Jesse Puljujarvi, 10 goals, 12 assists, 22 points. That's less than half a point per game in the NHL is what I have projected to, but it would be his best season in the NHL if he were to live up to that in 48 games, and that would be huge for the Edmonton Oilers this year because 22 points in 48 games, right? All of a sudden, yeah, we're not talking 82 games anymore, and some of these point totals might be a little bit out to lunch in an 82-game season, but remember, you can get things going a little bit easier when the season's shortened, because if you're riding a hot streak, you ride it only for 48 instead of trying to ride it for a full 82. So for Jesse Puljujarvi, that would be an average of 38 points in 82 games. I think we'd all be very over the moon if Jesse Puljujarvi could put up 38, 39 points in 82 games. So to put up 22 points in 48 games and potentially find himself halfway through the season on the top line with a lot more room to grow those point totals, woo, okay, yeah, we can deal with that all day. Now, Tyler Ennis, I've projected at 24 points for the season, 11 goals, 13 assists, a guy who could definitely find himself benefiting from that Kyle Turris, Jesse Puljujarvi line. And of course, you know what? If he regresses a little bit compared to last year, which I think I've got a goal regression and an assist regression, it's completely possible for him to regress and possibly, you know what, disappoint on these numbers even that I have projected, and that's fine because we'll move on to the next guy on the list, Dominik Kahun, who could potentially be another 30-point scorer for this Oilers team. So you see here how they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 30-point scorers in a 48-game season. That's all right. That's all right. We can deal with that, no problem. Dominik Kahun, 10 goals, 20 assists, 30 points. Obviously, figuring that he plays with Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot more room to grow that. Dominik Kahun could easily be a 48-point player. No doubt about it. He easily could be. And especially if he sees any power play time, good night, right? And that's going to be the question, is kind of how Dominik Kahun fits into the lineup in the top 6 and on special teams. And if he does that, he could easily find himself rocking and rolling 48 points, and this 30-point projection is out the window pretty quickly. I mean, honestly, with playing next to Draisaitl or McDavid, you could find that 30-point projection out the window by game number 35, and then you got 13 games to go yet. That could really get the job done, so keep that in mind, please. Kailer Yamamoto, 11 goals, 21 assists, 32 points. Obviously not projecting him to be point per game this year, but I just want to be safe, man. I just want to be safe. I don't want to go out there and expect Kailer Yamamoto to score a goal a game or an assist a game or a point per game and then have him only score 16 points in, say, a 48-game season. So 32 points, that's doable. It's safe. Again, similar to the James Neal totals. But for Yamamoto, I think feeding Cahoon, feeding Draisaitl, feeding whoever he's playing with could really get him going and allow him to have a pretty good assist season, 21 assists. The only other Oilers outside of Nuge, Draisaitl, McDavid, and Cahoon that I have projected at 20-plus assists for the year. Jujhar Khaira, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points. Could very well see that happen if he sticks around for the year, if not traded beforehand. I think, you know what, rebound year for Jujhar Khaira, this is probably perhaps a better total than last year for him. And in 48 games, 11 points, we'd be very happy to get that return on investment when it comes to Jujhar Khaira. Now the question is, the next two, similar to Jujhar Khaira, will they be here? Will they be in the lineup? Alex Chiasson, if he plays a 48-game season, I think he can score 10 goals because obviously the power play, right? He's going to be out there. As long as he's there, him and Neal are platooning to score goals in front of the net. 10 goals, 5 assists because he just doesn't seem to put up a lot of assists all the time in his career. Well, you know what? 15 points, we'd take it, we'd ship it, and we'd be good to go. And then Joakim Nygard at 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points if he plays a full season, but Joakim Nygard, probably the least likely guy on this list to play a full season, and you'd probably be looking, yeah, if you were lucky, 12 points in 48 games played, but for Joakim Nygard, you're probably looking at 0 points in 0 games played. Ladies and gentlemen, that's some quick work, some quick math, and some ideas kind of how I'm shaping up a 41 or 48 game season offensively. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I will catch you a little bit later on for another video. And I am up on out of here.